So with that, I'll start the Architectural Board of Review meeting for July 23rd with first item on the agenda, general business and public comment. If anybody is in the audience that would like to address the Architectural Board of Review on an item not on today's agenda. All right, we'll close that portion of general business and go on to the approval of the minutes of the previous Architectural Board of Review meeting, which would have been Monday, July 9th. Can I have a motion to approve those minutes?
So moved, Madam Chair.
Made by Keith, seconded by Paul. Okay. Does anybody have any comments to the minutes up until and including item number 1?
Madam Chair, I have one comment on number 1, item or under the motion number 2, that states the 8 proposed Washingtonian palms. Actually, there's no N on the end of that either, but trees will be between 15 and 20 foot brown trunk height, and all other trees will be a minimum 24-inch box size. So that's the addition of all other trees after and.
All right. Is that it for item number 1? Item number 2?
Madam Chair, just a technicality, where it says motion, it says carried/failed. It would have been carried.
All right. Item 3?
Madam Chair, on item 3, I abstained from the vote, but I added this comment, or asked about it. It's prepare a preliminary kitchen design to allow the review of necessary rooftop kitchen equipment screening. So if you can add the word rooftop.
All right. Item 4?
Madam Chair, on the 6th item on number 4, I believe it should state if visible from the public way in regard to the soffit.
All right. Anything else? All right. All those in favor, say aye. And all abstain. So motion carries with 1 abstention, Tony. Then we have consent calendar first from July 16th. Can I have a motion for approval of those minutes?
So moved.
Motion by Keith, seconded by Paul.
Consent calendar last week, July 16th, we had item A as an intersection of Calle Noguera and Calle Laurales was continued indefinitely to consent. Item B, 3849 State Street, got a final approval of the architecture, and Keith Rivera reviewed the consent calendar last week.
All right, all those in favor, say aye. 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 All right, motion carries. Then we have the consent calendar for today.
Did anybody make a motion?
What? We don't need to make that motion, right?
Did you already do it? For July 23rd?
July 23rd. It's just sitting in front of me. We're supposed to just, consent calendar was just for last week, right?
We have a consent calendar today.
Oh, and you want a motion for that too?
Mm-hmm.
Okay. Motion made by
So moved.
Keith, seconded by Paul.
Okay. Consent today, July 23rd, we had item A, 3849 State Street. The landscaping was approved with a condition. Item B, 302 to 306 Meigs Road was approved as submitted. That was a review after final for some of the plants in that landscape plan. Approved as submitted. Item C, 409 Oria Del Mar Drive was approved as submitted. Item D, 3707 State Street. We had our ABR members stepping down from reviewing this review after final, so I spoke to Paul Zink and he agreed to review it, but we need to do that after this meeting when we have time. So that item was tabled until we can review it after the meeting.
So we're going to table the whole thing or just that item?
Just that item.
Okay, so this is a vote for an approval of the 3 items, except item D, which has not yet been reviewed yet. All those in favor, say aye. Aye. All right, motion
Oh, I
carries.
forgot to mention, Keith Rivera and Chris Gilliland reviewed the consent calendar. At least
Okay.
the first 3 items.
All right, thanks, Tony.
Oh, let's see. Okay, we're about to get to announcements now.
And then announcements?
Let's see. Kirk Gerdine is absent today, and Keith Rivera will be stepping down on items 2 and 3. And we had the appeal of the approval of 901 Olive Street, and I mentioned at the last meeting the council hearing would be August 7th, but that date has been pushed back to September the 11th. It took a while to find a date where the appellant and the applicant's team could also be together at this for the same meeting date. I don't think council's officially set the date, but that's the date we expect is September the 11th.
Okay.
And earlier, Keith Rivera mentioned that he could attend the hearing. Do you think September 11th will work for you?
Don't think that far in advance, but
Yeah.
if you just send me that
Okay.
date, and I'll double check.
Okay. And I think Jaime has an announcement.
All right, any other announcements?
It has to do with the request for a subcommittee, actually. We have a current subcommittee that was selected for the next G application. I think it's Mr. Zink, Mr. Moselle were involved with those applications. Well, they're back. They have a different carrier now, and they want to expand their existing node system, make 10 locations. So the difference with these locations is they're going to place a larger whip antenna on the strand-mounted locations. And it's a little larger than what they have now. So I asked for a mock-up, and it's located at 302 Puesto del Sol. So I'm going to ask you board members to go by and look at it. 302 Puesto del Sol. I'll have Tony send you a actual map location so you can find it. And I'd like your input on that as we move forward with their new application. We do have a process where those locations, actually proposing only 3 new locations. Most of the locations are retrofits of existing sites, so the antenna would get slightly larger, and that gives them the capacity to add 3 carriers. So it is actually a good thing, but we do want to make sure we're okay with their revised setups. So this will be the mock-up where I would like your input on that.
All right, thanks, Jaime. Any more announcements? All right, so we're on to our first item, which actually is a discussion item. Fire-resistant building design, construction, and landscaping.
Okay.
Your names for the record.
Just introduce ourselves. Chris Manson-Hing, Secretary AIA, Susan Quartz Tejada, President AIA Santa Barbara, and we'd like to introduce for you today the AIA Santa Barbara's Architect Tours 2012, which this year has a particular emphasis on fire-resistant building design, construction, and landscaping. And we thought that we'd make a presentation to the design boards because of the recent fires that we've had and how much destruction we've had in the community and how much impact that has at the public at large. So what I'd like to do is we have this tour every year, and we like to tie it into when they fly the flags on State Street. It will be on Saturday, September 29th, and I'd like to pass you on to Susan here, who can give you a little bit more information.
Hi, can you hear me? Is that? Mm-hmm. Yeah, okay. As Chris said, my name is Suzanne Quartz Tejada, and I am the president of the Santa Barbara chapter of the American Institute of Architects, also known as the AIA. The AIA is a professional organization which sets the standards of the practice of architecture, for the practice of architecture. For over 80 years, the Santa Barbara chapter has been, of the American Institute of Architects, has worked to serve its members and society for promoting understanding and appreciation of architecture. One of the ways our chapter is reaching out to the general public is through our annual architect tours, where we showcase a diversity of built projects designed by AI architects. This year's theme, as Chris mentioned, is fire-resistant building design, construction, and landscaping. Since these are very real issues impacting our community, we believe this is of particular interest to the board and to the public. The tour, which is on Saturday, September 29th, is led by architects and construction teams, demonstrating innovative fire-resistant strategies to apply to your home and business. Along with the city fire department, there will be on-site presentations for the public, and the tour will include 8 fascinating sites and projects in fire-resistant locales throughout the community in different areas. With lunch will be provided, and there will be a festive after party at Cielito Restaurant downtown. The projects featured represent a wide variety of architectural style and scale, ranging from Spanish colonial, Italianate to contemporary. More information about the different sites can be found on our website. And there's also information on the website regarding specifics about each site location, what the focus is, a little bit more detail for those who are interested to find out more about it. So please visit our website at aiasb.com to get more information, and I want to thank you for allowing us the time to present this to the board and the community at large. Thank you.
Thanks. And
Thank you.
just to let you know, we'll be before you again about 2 weeks before the actual September 29th, and we'll have a little bit more information and possibly a presentation by the fire department that would come in and just give the public some general knowledge of what they will be doing at the different sites. And so that'll probably be a little bit more interest. But thanks for your time.
Thank you.
Thanks, guys.
Thank you.
Thank you, guys. All right. We're ahead of schedule, amazingly enough. And our next item does not appear to be here. So we're going to take approximately a 10-minute recess break. Third with item number 130 South Aliso Street. This is project design approval meeting. The last time we saw this item, it was May 16th. Justin, you want me to read the 4 items
That would be great.
that we have? That we had 4 items. The first one was study.
Let me get the old elevations out so we know what we're talking about.
Yeah, that would be helpful.
It's been a while. There we go.
So those are old.
These are the old elevations that the minutes are based on.
So let's look at them with the other. The first 2 items are related to the elevation, so we may as well get them side by side. You think that's a good idea?
The 2 items are.
The first 2 items are related to the design, so maybe we. Oh, you don't have them in the same format. Okay.
Awesome.
Yeah, I'll do that. Thank you. Your name's for the record.
Laura Weinstein.
Justin Van Mullen on Design Architects.
So I was going to read the motion from the last meeting, which is 1, study introducing more articulation in the massing, particularly at the 2 street elevations. 2, study the proposed materials at the east elevation. 3, resolve noise issues for the outdoor living area. 4, provide a landscape plan that addresses the 2 street frontages. So, with that, your presentation.
I will start at the beginning. Just it's been a while since we've been here, so I'll remind you where we are looking and what's going on. This site is located at the corner of Cacique Street and Aliso Street. There is now a underpass going under the freeway connecting Milpas on the other side. So this property used to have a house right here, and it was removed for this underpass. And so we're proposing to build a new unit right where the house was before. This project was put on hold for a little while because there was an update to the general plan saying that no new residential development, I believe it's within 150 feet. And since then, they've now permitted buildings that were currently in the process of being permitted to continue. So that's why we are back here. So existing site plan, let's see, our new building is going in right here. There's currently 4 other units on site. It will be, we'll have a 4-car garage on the bottom, 2 separate garages, 1 bedroom on the bottom, and then the rest of the living space upstairs. Here's our floor plan. Like I said, the 2 2-car garages. And we also, the reason we brought new plans today, we did not have quite enough room to pull in and pull out of our garages. So we've added a foot to each of the garages. So now we have a 17-foot clear entry. And we've also, there's an existing planter that's on the other side of the drive that we took about 3 feet off that. So now we have 24-foot reverse space.
The foot was added to the garage door size, not the actual garage size.
As far as the roof plan, last time you had asked us to look at the cupolas. We had a couple going across the roof, and instead of having a lot of little cupolas, we now have one more prominent roof feature, which you'll see more clearly on the elevations. So most of the comments were regarding elevations and just changing, the massing, a little more variation, different materials. We now have a combination of board and bat and siding, so a little variation. On our south elevation, we've added a little more fenestration with these eyebrow elements, as well as more windows to break up our massing. Justin, do you have anything to add?
Just that the reason we changed the materials is so we had more of a kind of a barn look before, and one of the things that isn't reflected on the minutes, but the board was looking to be more compatible with the arts and crafts style that's the next door neighbor. There's a little like 1920s bungalow, arts and crafts bungalow right next door, and so that's what we're trying to do. We spent a lot of time articulating the front porch as well with a new window, light, and the detail of the porch to kind of give it a sense of entry with the shed, and then also articulating this side here with a little bit more detail with the belly band here, and then that kind of little pop-up break in the roof to kind of get some variation. And I think you'll see in the landscape plan that we've got tons of landscaping on that one side as well.
So this elevation is now facing right on Cacique Street. So we wanted to add a lot of landscape to sort of block it from view, giving privacy to the people living there, as well as, breaking some of the noise that they might get from the road. We'll skip to the landscape plan. So with landscape, I tried to choose plants that had a sort of a cottagey feel to them, with nice colors, choosing perennials so that they'll be easy to maintain. They'll come back year after year. Trying to use existing landscape. We have an existing bronze loquat tree right here, some existing trees back here, freeways back over here, and our new road cuts through right here. So we've put some big London plane trees in here. Lots of fun flowering plants, and just want it to be really appealing from the street. And also putting in a new fence right here to increase the privacy.
The only thing I'd have to add would be that the elevation that is directly parallel to the freeway, we don't have fenestration on that because of its proximity to the noise, but we have done a lot to break up that elevation, and that was the way it was before, pretty much.
Do you want to address item number 3 on the motion, Justin? Resolve noise issues for outdoor living areas.
We did have a noise study, and the noise study determined that we would be required to use dual glazed windows, no SDC required. So it's because of the reconfiguration of the freeway, there's a pretty good sound buffer or sound shadow that's being created, which is really helpful for our site. And that's what they determined.
So you don't need any measures for your outdoor living spaces for your noise study?
Not for the outdoor living space at all.
All right. Do we have any, is that the end of your presentation? All right. Any public comment on this item? Any letters, Tony? Anything? All right. Questions? Stephanie? Keith? Paul?
One quick question. Are you making any changes to the existing buildings on the campus, the other buildings?
No.
Okay.
Carrie? Chris?
Thank you, Madam Chair. Can we go back to the landscape plan briefly? Just trying to figure out the locations of these trees. Is this the edge of...
There's a planter back here.
So it's basically...
We may need to study size and if they can go there, since we did have to shrink that planter down to have our backup space.
Okay.
But yeah, I believe it's about a 2-foot planter.
Okay.
So
Yeah, you might want to rethink those.
yeah, with your
trees.
knowledge, would the red bud?
Not very well
Not-
on that space.
I wouldn't be happy there.
Could
Could we
be
do like a
one-sided.
plate, like a plate that we could back over, like they have on sidewalks, to
Sure.
create a bigger planter, but also have the backup space?
Yeah, you're going to want to give that as much room as you can, so that would be one way to do it. And then is this area here not part of the proposal also?
That's existing. We can continue this landscape on over here. They have landscape there currently.
Okay.
It's a little
it'd be nice
rustic,
if it matched.
Yeah.
Rustic, good word. And these are existing?
Yes, they're existing.
Okay, that's all I have for questions.
All right.
There are existing site photos in there.
Let's put it under the camera, actually, so everybody can see it.
So I assume that one is this
Yeah,
one?
that's, yeah.
All right. I think I've seen that perspective in a while. And there's the rustic landscaping. Wait,
Here.
there's the rustic landscaping.
Here's a kind of a close-up. You can see it's got the fence that's got some overgrown. Not sure if
It's got a
that-
really large tree.
Yeah, it also has a very large tree.
It's the tree. Okay.
there.
All right.
So you're really not going to get much to grow underneath. Was that a ficus?
Yeah, it looks like it.
And it's quite a bit of shade on that side as well.
Okay, good, thanks.
I had just one question, and it was about the porch roof on the east elevation. This looks like a 2-foot overhang, and then this line carries through, and I'm not understanding how that relates to if this is a deep porch. What am I not understanding here? Can you explain that? Do you have a roof plan?
Roof plan?
You've got this, so I'm assuming that's a 2-foot overhang that comes all the way across, but then this element
shed.
somehow, it's a shed, but it reads as one long line. But there's no, here you've got this jog, and then on the side, which would be I guess it would be the
So this is a
north.
2-foot overhang, and this is a deeper overhang.
Is there a second story on that little entry?
Yeah, the second story starts right here.
Starts right there. So that's that. So that roof.
And so we just have this little area right here that we use to come in and then go up the stairs inside.
All right. I get it now. Perfect. All right, comments from the board. Stephanie, you ready to make comments?
Yeah, I wasn't here for the previous meeting, but if the board was asking for the details of this project to mimic some of the...
Is your mic on? And hold on a second, Stephanie. If you weren't here at the last meeting, Tony,
Can I make a comment?
is she
I'm not going
allowed to make a comment? Because she didn't review the plans prior, or the previous. Did you review the previous submittal? Is that the new rule?
I'm planning on abstaining from the vote.
Oh, okay, okay.
But I
Okay, perfect.
can make a comment, and the comment, somebody else can make it if
Go for
they agree
it.
with it or whatever. But in the motion, that the casing around the windows reflect the same detailing as on the Craftsman next door, with a bit of an overhang on the header to the jamb relationship. That's my only comment.
That's a good comment. Keith?
Thank you, Madam Chair. My only comment would be on the north elevation with the projecting bay. I like what you did with the one cupola and the shed dormer here, and perhaps consider like a shed form on that projecting bay to kind of tie in with this. Something about the gable maybe that accentuates the fact that it's cantilevering, but I'll let the other board members weigh in on that. But other than that, I think it's ready for approval.
All right, thanks, Keith. Paul? Gary? Chris?
Just a few landscape comments. As we discussed, maybe finding another way to accommodate those red buds in the root zone for that, if it's some kind of grate or something that may help. You have lawn called out, and there's a rule that it can't be a dimension any less than 8 feet. So you might have to re-examine the call out for that plant. And vinca is not a good choice because it's invasive and it'll take over the rest of the area. So, an alternative plant for that. And then the only other thing would be to provide a call out for which tree is existing and which is proposed. But other than that, I think it's looking pretty good. You might cut down a little bit on the wisteria quantity because those are aggressive. But that looks good. Thanks.
You just picked on both the plants I chose.
I don't have anything further to add to. I think this project's ready for project design approval. I hear what Keith's saying here. It doesn't matter to me which way you go with that, actually. So,
Could I just clarify on the window casing? As opposed to being exactly like the next door neighbor, I understand what you're saying. It needs to be a little beefier and needs to be a little bit more similar. But I think that the next door neighbor has a flare. I'd prefer not to do the flare. But I think it flares.
It's hard to see it on the little
Yeah,
sketch.
you can't even see it on the. That's the only thing.
I guess.
The very
in my-
traditional flare of the.
That wasn't really what my comment was
Justin,
relating to.
I think she's talking about extending the
Detail
head
15.
In the head, yeah. Sure.
and the sill.
Yeah.
And maybe a skirt on the
That's
sill or
easy.
something
Yeah.
like that. So when you come back, this is project design approval anyway, so just a comment. All right. Does anybody want to make a motion to that effect?
Make a motion. So this would be indefinite continuance to consent for final approval.
They actually want project design approval.
Yeah. So this would be project design approval, return to consent for final, with the following comments. Detail 15A 9.1, extend the head trim beyond the jamb. And detail 16, provide an extension at the sill. And then incorporate Chris's landscape comments. So provide the room for the adjacent trees,
For the red bud,
redbud.
there was a re-examination of what?
The lawn
The lawn.
as an alternative ground cover for that space.
So reconsider the lawn and ground cover, and reconsider the quantity of wisteria,
And call out the existing trees.
Vinca.
and then call out the existing versus new on the final landscape plan.
Right. Do I have a seconder for the motion?
Second.
Seconded by Chris. Under discussion? All those in favor, say aye. Aye. Opposed? Abstentions?
Abstain.
Stephanie, one abstention. Motion carries. Thanks, Justin.
Thank you.
Have a great day. And we're still 15 minutes ahead. And our second item number is not in the room, so we'll take another short recess, and we'll return momentarily.
Can we take it over at Paradise?
Okay, so we'll reconvene with item number 2, 1820 De La Vina. This is for final review, and right now we have our landscape architect, David Black, to do his landscape review.
Is it all separate ones? Or is that included?
No, it's included in that. I just like carrying my own set. So I have the copies of the minutes from the last time. I've circled 3 items. There's some additional copies there.
Yeah, and then, we don't have the minutes yet. Tony will get those, but go ahead and read yours.
Okay, so the one I have is number 5, provide screening of the transformer. And I know that Hockhauser's office kind of reconfigured the layout around the transformer to provide this planting here. So we have it being sort of screened from the street, this location, whereas there was no screening before. So there's that issue we addressed. Project design approval of the landscape with a condition to provide landscaping. At the front of each side of the driveway, the plans with the curved sidewalk, the 7 trees, that's here, is approved. No flagstone or active use under the oak tree. There is none, where we had some loose flagstone patio there now, or before, but we have none now. Now, this is this is essentially what we showed last time, but I've in addition, I've added planting here because I think this is what was pointed out to us at the time. Why don't we have more planting? And so in addition to the vines we have growing up on this trellis element, we provided more material here. And frankly, you don't even really see this material because this is essentially a wall. And then this is just loose native understory under the oak tree, just for a little bit of color, heucheras and Doug irises and what have you. And then number 9, carry forward the oak tree protection measures from the Planning Commission resolution. And so we have all that stuff here, illustrated here. And then we have Bill Spiewak, the arborist, with his report here. So the combination of the two, and plus we make reference to it in our notes here. So that would suffice.
That's that long item 9. It covers all this.
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah. I mean, we were given this and we incorporated it in the plans themselves. The
other ones are not landscape related. I can go ahead and read them while we're waiting.
Sure.
And then, do we have a full set? Oh, we just have your plans here. So.
Well, it's incorporated in the full set, but this is just a separate set.
Right, but I'm going to. We have to wait for the applicant to review their items.
Probably should.
Okay. I can just cross off the one that's our non-action items. Let's see. We have a motion for project design approval. Item 1 was the project compatibility criteria was analyzed with the conclusion that the project does not pose major inconsistencies with the criteria, with the following comments. The project blends with the neighborhood. Detail is a wonderful craftsman style, compatible with the architectural character, appropriate size, bulk, and scale, and preserves the oak tree. So one thing they're going to come back with is study the relationship between the window head heights and the Korbel bracket detail on the gabled elevations. And study having deeper roof overhangs, 30 to 36 inches is suggested if it complies with side yard setback encroachment requirements. Cut sheets of exterior lights, keeping in character with the structure. Ways to recess the windows to create a deeper shadow line, and study the scale of the window trim. So those 4 items. And we have, I guess we can go ahead and look at the exterior lights that are proposed. This one here, if everybody can see it. This looks like a recessed wall light. I'm not exactly sure where these go. These look like landscape lights. Right, David?
Yes.
And these are exterior lights. Are they down lights?
I think those are the ones in question.
I don't know if those are installed on the trellis element, so you don't really see them. They just shine right down. But I think Jay would have to address that.
So, got the beam spread. But I'm not seeing that they're full cut off, even though it looks like they are. I'm looking for something. We'll ask them that. So while we're stalling without having to take a third recess, maybe we pull out the architectural plans. And start looking at the details. It's a small set of drawings. We're not recessing yet, Tony, because we're looking at the drawings, which we'd normally be doing anyway.
There he is.
We just went on with it. We went ahead without you because we were
For some reason, when I had it
anxious.
written down at 425 for some reason. And then,
David already presented his.
and Nigel's on his way. He's got some additional cut sheets. He's right behind me.
So your name, Jay, for the record.
Jay Blatter from Hawkelza Blatter.
So what we were here, we already have a set out here.
All right.
we were just turning to the elevations, and we were going to ask you, and you walked in at the perfect moment, about item number 2 of the minutes from the last meeting, study the relationship between the window head heights and the Korbel bracket detail on the gabled elevation.
Yeah, we were able to bring these up a bit, and also we worked on the proportion. They were a little narrow, so I
Yeah.
think this is I think this is what you were talking about, was before they were down lower and they were thinner. Now we were able on the gable ends to get them up a bit. We feel, we think it addresses it. We like the proportion of it. We are dealing with truss roofs, so we don't have the ability to pop up into the space.
Then item 3 was study having deeper roof overhangs 30 to 36 inches as suggested.
And we did increase both the eaves. We increased the eaves, I believe, if we check in the detail nodule, no, I think we went to 3 feet. So I know we increased, particularly these, I think we were talking more about. We had the overhang, but we felt that these should be a little more pronounced on the gable ends, and we did increase those. Let me look for the detail on that.
94.
Well, that's on the eve end, and let's go to 9.6 and 9.4. I'll be careful here. There's Nigel. All right. So let's see. Nigel, we're just looking now at here it shows right here. So we got it up to 30 inches. Before it was like 18, so we went to 30 inches on these, and also 30 inches.
36 inches at the front it shows on the roof plan.
So on the front we made them deeper on the ones that face the street.
If we go to the roof plan, it shows that 36-inch dimension. So on the front end.
Here. Right there. What is it on the sides?
Is it 30 on the side?
30 on the sides.
30 on the eaves, yeah.
We had a question about the cut sheets on the lighting.
Do you have this?
If you could, we have them. We were reviewing them, and we're okay with, presuming everybody's okay with this fixture. That's wall mounted to the building, landscaping, recessed wall mounted, sidewalk illumination, and then we couldn't find where this one was a full cutoff.
It's basically it's buried in the trellis beam. I've used it before on the Artificial Kidney Center. We had a similar fixture. So it fixes alongside a trellis beam member, and they're fairly indiscreet. And then it's
12 volt.
Yeah, and basically it's almost used like an entry light. It just puts a little bit of light over the entry where you've got a trellis. It's this one, not this one.
Okay. And it's a down light?
Correct.
Okay. And it's down.
Yeah, and as I said, it goes alongside. So you've got a series of trellis members. It fixes alongside the trellis. And so it's actually, the fixture itself is screened. For example, on a trellis in the plan.
If you turn to east 7.1.
Yeah.
Oops, overshot it, sorry.
Roll down a little bit.
Sure.
What's this in the entryway right there? Are you using those G9s? Where are they going to be used at?
No, that's what I'm saying. That's that
one.
side mounted trellis member.
This one.
So it fits onto the. Yes, there is. Yeah, there's a trellis over that frontage.
Here.
Driveway entrance.
Oh, here.
Driveway entrance.
That is
along-
also. That is
and
also.
then as we go, not in the trellis, but we go alongside the wall right there.
Towards the street.
Oh, you sit her in here.
Okay.
I think he's got a misreference.
No.
Actually, those are a copper just an uplight for the trees that we have along the.
That's not a
It's a
G9.
cutoff fixture though. Maybe it's not.
It's not that, is it?
No, it's a low voltage landscape light that just uplights the underside of the tree. It has a totally cut off.
So that's a You're right, Gary. That gets crossed out. That's not that fixture. That's a landscape fixture.
You have it also under.
It's just mislabeled.
It's a tree light that basically uplights the underside of the trees.
And we don't have a problem with uplight tree lights. We haven't never had a problem. So.
Okay.
Actually, if you check the ABR guidelines, it says that there is an issue with lighting.
Well, I've asked that question before, and we've had landscape lighting, and we've had really dramatic tree lighting, and we've never brought it up as a...
Does John have the fixture on his cover sheet of that fixture, you think? First sheet?
We can ask Tony. Tony, you can look it up, but I think there's a specific ruling on tree lighting, uplighting trees.
Let's let that come. Okay, let's...
Let Tony look
let's move on.
Might be
We're
discouraged.
starting a discussion. That's my fault. I was just going through this list, Jay.
All righty.
We'll come back to that
All right.
that lighting issue, but
Alrighty.
do you want to go?
Yeah, I think great going down the list. Is
Yeah, that's what I was just doing in an effort to kind of save
Sure.
time. Study ways to recess the windows to create a deeper shadow line. Can we look at that window detail?
Yeah, and actually we had,
And the scale of the window trim.
yeah,
So that's...
he did, but it's on no.
do you know where those window details
Yeah.
are?
And
Yeah,
basically we had some photos to bring. We
Mm.
studied all the windows.
I went around the neighborhood today.
Took like a,
I took photographs and we don't have them. I'm sorry.
all
They
of
are none of the craftsman style new existing buildings have any additional
Real.
recess to the window mounting. So they're all very much this detail with a 1x trim.
and that's pretty consistent with everything in the neighborhood.
Is that a 1x? It doesn't look like it's scaled.
Two,
Is it
sorry,
1x?
2x with a 2x
Two by.
trim. I
Okay,
apologize. It says
okay.
2x,
Yeah.
2x, so 2x4, 2x. We got a 2x6, 2x8. We're using at the front. So what we're doing is all the front elevations we beefed up the size of the trims. The only thing I thought I could do was potentially move the fin to the back of the jip in the assembly to get an extra ½ inch to the reveal, but it would be probably
Not
a little
great
bit
for what?
splitting hairs. Unfortunately, I did go around the neighborhood. I wanted
Yeah.
to check that
We
there wasn't
believe you.
anything
Yeah,
that
we looked
was.
at like a
The only
dozen
place where it
buildings.
looked like it was a little deeper on some of the craftsman style was where it was a top-hung window, and the additional depth that you got was just from the rear part of the sash actually being further back than the front, which gave the impression of some depth. But actually, from a trim standpoint, didn't do that.
But this is really consistent with all the cottages that are around, this particular site.
What about the scale of the window trim? Do you have an elevation of the window trim?
Yeah, it's drawn to scale on the elevations, and also, do we have a blow-up module of the
Yeah,
windows?
that's
What we did was on the elevations, we enlarged the header trim
Yeah.
on the front. And actually, believe it or not, in the previous presentation, it was intended to be larger. That detail did show. But this shows where basically on the front side we've gone with the taller trim to bring the height, seemingly bring the height of the windows up, whereas on the side we'd stay with the 7. So it's an 11-inch overall dimension, I think it is on the front,
And that's
and
a
an
2x8
8-inch
there.
dimension on the side.
Do you have a blow up of these?
I don't
No.
have a blow up of that now.
You have it called out anywhere as what
Yeah,
the sides
Yeah,
of
on
the
the
window?
detail.
On the details, so if you go to the window details on the 9s again. So this is the jamb. So it's a 2x6 at the side. This is the header. It's 11.5 inches at the front and it's 7 3/4 at the side.
And that also include, the extra depth with the molding, so it's not just a flat
Believe it or
board.
not, that was there actually at the previous presentation, but it didn't show up on the elevation, so we corrected it on the elevations.
Is this a pre-manufactured product, this crown, or no?
Not yet. They're doing the presentation.
It's gonna be wood.
Comment.
I think it's going to be wood. We looked as to whether Hardy made the pre-manufactured elements, but they don't. We cannot find this profile.
So it's constructed with several pieces. It's got a
Let's let them
headpiece.
finish their...
Oh.
Yeah, we may as well do that. Just let them finish, and then we'll ask them questions about the window details and the lights and stuff. That actually concludes the minutes from the last meeting. Do you have anything else you want to add? Since you're on that subject, you may as well finish your thought.
I'd like to thank David Black for holding the floor while I was late.
No, just as far as this, just in addressing the trim details, the combination of the 2x material plus wood moldings to build out the crown on top, so it's got the the relief. It's not like just a pre-manufactured plant on.
Even if it's hardy, it's made of pre-manufactured. It is components. It's not a molded.
So it's got it has a crown mold, a cap piece, and then the trim piece.
Okay. Do you want to just run through the elevations, the typical elevations?
Sure.
Really quickly, the major ones, so that we're not just silent on camera, staring at a set of drawings. That just,
It's not on the site plan.
what about the site plan?
The site plan issues.
There's no more issues on the minutes. We went through all of them. But,
So, I mean, basically, this is consistent, with the evolution of the design that's gone through, with, a number of meetings with your board with input.
I think what I was hoping for, Jay, is to go through the bigger drawings that we can actually see up close what we've been seeing all along here, but then let's just see that we've never seen all the details put together. So,
Nadia, you want to walk? We'll walk you through all
just
the
really
details.
quickly.
Sure, absolutely.
Not everyone.
All
But
right.
just, in
right,
general, this is what we did.
All right, so let's talk about the key details.
So this is the main sort of porch entry
Let's show the
feature.
detail of that.
Yeah. I think trouble is it shows up on a section. Let me see if I can go straight to the detail. I mean, it might be best to flick just back between the. I think we did a blow up of that. I apologize if I can't go straight to it. So that's the main detail of the top window. This is the detail of all the bracketing. This is that main trellis at the back of the building. I'm trying to go front, trying to find that front entry porch because I know we detailed it. We went through everything. Here it is. Sorry, I apologize. Here's the blow. So this is the plan of that porch feature. These are basically then all the details pertaining to how this gets
The railings,
molded
columns.
out, finished. On the underside of this, what you see is basically a main truss element. So you're going to read that on the underside of the element. And then what we've got, and it showed on the electrical plan, was a light fixture that uplights that. So it's sort of going to be a neat effect, I think, for that overall porch canopy. This shows it in section. So we've gone to a lot of length to kind of articulate that truss and make sure that has a real kind of craftsmanly
Authentic
sort of
porch look, not some
feel to it.
drywall on this.
Part of the building does overhang here. That's what this detail shows here. So we've even worked that into the truss design, where basically the bottom tie element of the truss would come in underneath that overhanging floor element, so that it's all worked out nicely with the floor.
You can show our typical eyebrow window back.
Well, that was that eyebrow. This was the eyebrow window.
Yeah, let's go. We have our bracketed little eyebrow shed roofs. If you go back one,
Go back on the details.
a lot of details on it. All right. Let's see. Let's go back one more. So this is some of our typical shed roof details where we're using beams, cross member and leaving the exposed rafter tails. So
there's a
that's
couple
pretty
of
traditional-
stairwell entries where we're putting this sort of little shed canopy over the entry. There's a side stairwell on the design.
And that's once again the exposed rafter tails coming out over the cross beam, and then the bracketed sub members. I mean, trying to really pick up on the craftsman side, which is seeing how the pieces come together. Even though it's a little difficult with current codes. This shows, I believe, is this the trellis element here, Nigel?
That's just one of the window
Right.
trellises that shows.
So same thing even with the window trellises, same bracketed, exposed.
So that's some of these
Korbel.
details that are down the side of the
This one
side
here.
of the elevator. Yes,
Mm-hmm.
correct. Let's see if I can find out one. That shows
All right.
over-
And then one thing I want to know on the rafter tails, even though we have trusses, we're kicking back with 3x8 because we want to have some scale and meat to it, so you're not just seeing like a little, you see on some of these projects, it's where they just let the truss extend out. It doesn't look like it has enough meat to hold up. We want to have that more craftsman meat to it. Once again, typical Korbel details where we chamfer the ends and, shape with a little bit of cove molding shape to some of the brackets.
All right. It's good to me.
These are, we do have all our standard, apron board details, which are pretty standard, details of which shingle comes down. We've
This
got our
is where
corner
you've got your
board.
typical overhanging upper floor, where we're doing basically a heavy timber underside to articulate the
Yeah,
Thank you
ceiling of that.
for doing that. Okay, while we're kind of perusing these detail sheets, is there any public comment on this project in the audience? Tony, anything? Nothing? Okay, questions from the board. Chris? Gary?
A couple of questions. One question is on the windows. Did you have a color for the vinyl windows and the trim? And are they coordinating?
That is with the sample board.
Where's the sample board? Finish schedule.
Is the vinyl, the question would be, is the vinyl the same color as the trim or no?
No, it isn't.
They're vinyl windows?
clad, yeah.
Or
Is it-
There's a note on there that says they're vinyl
Yeah,
windows.
yeah, it's a gelled one, actually, premium vinyl window.
Let's look at down here so
All right.
we can all see it.
All right.
And what color is that to be?
It's a
Dark
brown.
chocolate.
Chocolate brown? And then the trim color is?
The trim is sort of like a
cream
white.
You don't have a sample of that vinyl, do you?
The window
Whether it's
trim?
shiny or not, or
It's not shiny. It is a premium
Okay.
vinyl window.
all right. Another question on the windows. You have some crown on there. There was some talk about the crown. Are you going to have returns on that? Is the crown going to return around the corner, or are you going to have plumb cuts on it?
That's a good
It's a
question.
2x.
It's probably
Well,
going to. It's
well,
going
I said no. If the way it's detailed now is two pieces, it would have to return because otherwise, there's. In other words, there's like a.
Right.
With this detail, you have to return it. So the way we detail it now, it would be returned.
Okay.
If we can find someone that makes a solid piece that we're satisfied with, we come back. But right now, it shows like it would have to be returned based on that detail.
All right. So you.
Because it's a two-piece trim board, so it would definitely, have a 45-degree miter and return, which is more traditional, I think, looking too.
Definitely. That's good.
Where's that window detail?
That window detail is.
It's on A920. You keep going 9.10. I think.
It's on. No, I think it goes this way. The windows. I think they. Yeah, I could show you that.
No, it's right here.
Yeah, and so you'll see it's like a two. In other words, it's a two-piece. So this can't. This
Yeah,
has
but
to
it does-
return.
It doesn't show it return.
Right.
But that's uncommon.
Yeah, we're certainly not going to have an opening.
That's why I was looking for that in a
Right.
bigger drawing than the elevations, because the elevations were so small. It was really hard to see. But,
Okay, that's it on questions.
okay, no questions. Stephanie?
Are those windows operable?
Yes, they are double hung.
Double or single?
Single hung
Single
windows,
hung.
sorry.
Single hung. The lower
So
sash
this
open.
opens
Yes.
and this
Yeah.
is fixed.
Mm-hmm.
And the mullions
Would be
are
per
those
per this
snap-
drawing.
snap-on.
They are.
Mhm.
Okay.
And then the question about the uplighting.
Yeah.
Yeah, I wanted
What is that?
Tony, did you find something about the uplighting, or?
We've run across this before, Tony, where we've had landscape lighting, and it's never been an issue that we've made somebody remove when they're uplighting trees.
Well, the ABR guidelines refer you to the outdoor lighting guidelines, and there's a kind of overarching general guideline that lighting shouldn't be any more than necessary for its purpose. And it says fixtures and placement should be designed to avoid glare, light trespass onto adjacent properties, and sky glow. So the issue with uplighting is sky glow. But then in a section on specific to landscape lighting, it says uplighting should not be overdone and is most effective when limited to a few landscape elements. So it's not outright prohibited, it's up to your discretion.
Where's your
Madam Chair?
Yeah, lighting.
There's two
Again.
locations. There's one that was under the oak tree, and there's one that was adjacent to the driveway. Can you explain the landscaping next to the driveway that those uplights are working? Because the
David?
oak tree we understand.
This is the landscaping.
The oak tree is great.
And you can turn to the electrical.
So I believe we're looking at these trees and the oak tree where we had them.
Yeah, there's just single upright standard trees.
Where's the electrical plan for that?
E7.1.
Yeah, I was just looking at that. So I think we're talking about the ones lighting these trees and the oak tree.
And these.
Just at the
That's the
Well,
trellis.
those are the
This is
all the
actually
trellis
labeled
ones.
correctly.
This should be a different
Yeah.
It's
symbol, but that's the
Well,
trellis
this is
lighting.
this is a lot of lights.
This would only aim down.
These are the little tiny,
Tiny, small wattage.
these.
Okay.
These are these.
And those would be almost like
These
sandwiched
and these.
in the truss itself, so you wouldn't see it, and
these.
just downlight the, so no uplight.
But what
on
is it down? What is it downlight?
Well,
The
this is sort of a
driveway.
path of travel, so when people are coming through the trellis way, it just illuminates that gateway, sort of, just for safety.
Any more questions?
In there.
You're going to have a chance to make comments about it.
I will make comments.
Okay. Comments.
I think that the exterior lighting, landscape lighting, could be cut in half and still be effective. As nice, dramatic lighting. That's my only comment.
All right, Paul.
I think it's a great project, and the landscaping lighting along the driveway might not be as important as the stuff that's underneath the oak tree because there's more people-centered congregating in that area. So, but other than that, it's going to be a great project. I like the colors too.
Thanks, Paul. Gary.
Yeah, I would agree with the other comments. I think the elimination of that uplighting is kind of called for. I don't think that this along the driveway.
What if we would limit it just to 3? Just like 1, 2, 3.
Why don't you hold that thought?
All right.
Let's see how many other people agree with
All right.
that comment.
All right.
Yeah, I don't think that that particular lighting is necessary, but I can see that on top of the fixture not being pleasing to the eye or not corresponding with the architecture, I can see where the fixture is being used inside a trellis and it's hidden is okay, but all of a sudden we're starting to use them in areas where they're visible, and I don't think that they're the proper fixture for that, or I think they're not the proper use. The other thing is that all of the lighting fixtures, all of the numbers, and you're going to have to talk with John, and I brought this up last time, but all of your number, you got G9, you got A35, you got B35, none of them correspond to the E1 sheet where they say what the fixtures are. So the fixtures that you're proposing, the fixture cut sheets, are not equivalent to what you have proposed on the first sheet.
All right.
Okay, so you can ask John to fix that.
And I just, do you have a segue off of that?
Yeah.
Okay.
Back on what Gary was saying. When I said cut in half, I mean not both ways. Just one of these lights, maybe 3 of those and 2 of these would be sufficient. I'm not saying just across the board in half, but selectively.
And what's your major objection, if I can ask the question?
If these are facing the street and it's double the light,
Night glow.
yeah, it can be dramatic and have the effect of lighting the tree without like advertising the tree.
Well, I think if I could just interject.
Actually, let's
finish.
Let's finish comments. Go ahead, Gary. Finish your comments.
Okay, that was my comments on the lighting. And then the only comment I had was on crown molding that we've already discussed, that you included in the detail that there's a return on it. And also the detail would be a little clearer if you also had an elevation of the detail, a close-up elevation, rather than just the faraway ones that you have on that. And that should be included on that sheet. I still, although the windows are of quality, I'm still having a little problem with how close they are to how planted on they are to the hardy shingles. And I know that you've reviewed some of the existing windows around there, but none of them are vinyl windows that are put right onto the sheer paneling and then have molding on the outside. They are the manufactured windows in those days were still recessed back. They were center lined in the wall. So I think that if at all possible, to get the windows up earlier in on the project, that half-inch of shearing would make a difference, or something like that would make a difference on those windows to just get it in just a little bit.
I can see if we can push it back by the virtue of at least that depth of the...
and that would make a difference.
Okay. I mean, there might be some waterproofing issues. I'd have to check that out, but I'll see if we can push that.
And that would be my comments.
Any more comments? No? Chris?
Thank you, Madam Chair. I didn't have much else to add, but I'll chime in on the lighting a little bit. It seems to me that the lighting underneath the oak tree is suitable to a massive oak, and so 2 lights is not going to light up that entire tree. Not that we want to broadcast it too much, but that seems reasonable to me. It looks like you have 4 lights up along the driveway, which isn't a whole lot. These are low wattage, low impact lighting. I guess I could see a few more being removed from the trellis. Maybe that could be 3 instead of 5, but I don't see it as a huge problem. So that's about it, though. Other than that, the landscape looks great.
And I agree with you, Chris, on the lighting. I don't see it as being an overabundance of landscape lighting at all. However, what is the voltage on that? Wattage on that?
They are low voltage fixtures.
I thought they were low voltage.
They are.
Well, they're like 20 watt. Mm-hmm. So, they'll be shielded from the street. All you're going to just see is a glow in each one of the trees.
Yeah.
It won't shine into the street. So.
Yeah, I don't have a problem with the lighting either.
Same with the downlights, I think, in the trellis. They're low wattage, too.
Yeah.
All you're going to just see is sort of a moonlight kind of effect.
That's what I thought. I just wanted to confirm that. So I don't have a problem with that. I also don't have a problem with the windows. They're high-quality windows. I know this window, and I also know that I've been around this neighborhood, and I know what you would have brought in because I've done this myself.
I'm sorry I didn't.
And if you can set them back a little bit, great. Otherwise, with the 2-inch trim and the effort that you've gone into all the detailing for the windows, I think is sufficient for me. I think it's going to be a really nice project, and I don't have any other comments. So you are looking for final approval. And does anybody else feel the project's ready for final approval? And if they do, could they make a motion to that effect?
I think the project's ready for final approval. And for the lighting, I actually like the number of lights that are under the oak tree because it is such a huge oak tree. And the ones along the trellis because it's a driveway, that I'm all right with. Along the side, it's irrelevant. I can lose it or save it. It just seems odd that there's 4 there and there's 3 trees, and that's what I was kind of puzzled with. But other than that, I'd like to make a motion for final approval for the project with the following comments: that the architect look for ways to minimize the exterior lighting at the trellis. This is final. This is final. No, it's final.
You
Find
said
the way.
you were okay with it.
I'm okay with it. I was going to make it vague so you didn't have to do it, but that's really sloppy. So it's fine the way it is. Study. That's that word. No, it's fine the way it is.
So this would be a final approval with no comments? Final approval as submitted, or do you want to make
Final
comments?
approval as submitted. Well, back up. No, there'll be a couple of comments. One of them was the detail for the mitered corner at the top. You understand that as well as everyone else does. And the rest of the comments I wasn't focusing in on as much. The windows were fine the way they were detailed. We don't have to push that back any further.
I think it was just that one comment.
Okay, and the lighting is fine the way it's presented.
They are 75 watts.
No, Gary, I want to correct one. Gary, that's mislabeled. Those fixtures are not the ones going up lighting those trees. Okay. That was the issue. John mislabeled it. That light's not being used as the uplight. It's going to be a low voltage.
Do you want to make a comment about that?
So I just want to, because I know what you were
I'm done.
basing it on.
About
What?
clarifying the wattage is going to be
And
a low voltage for the
type of the fixture.
I would say the type of the fixture that's being shown for the uplighting is not the G9. The G9 is for the trellis, and so they were mislabeled on the plans, and that the correct fixture will be a low voltage 7.5 watts. Is that what you just said?
How many watts were they?
Or just they will be a low voltage watt.
Well, there's voltage and there's watts.
Low wattage.
It's wattage.
It's wattage.
It's that you care
Let's
about.
see on his plan if he has.
I think 20 watts.
He's not going to say on his
packet. That's what he's specified.
20, 25, anything under 25 watts.
And I'm going to be. That's my motion.
Okay.
Can we have a seconder of the motion before we go under discussion?
Second. Motion.
Seconded by Gary. Under discussion?
Under discussion, just change it from the G9 fixture to all the fixtures, to reference all the fixtures, because G9 is not the only fixture that's incorrect.
That sounds fine.
So
We need a clarification. That one comment about mitered corners. Could you
There is a
repeat what-
detail where it's the head trim on the windows that has a molding, and the molding is to be mitered back to the siding.
that's one comment. And then the other comment was that the light fixtures are mislabeled and need to be corrected.
And a cut sheet for the fixture
And
that's missing.
a cut sheet provided for the landscape lighting that verifies the low voltage, low wattage landscape lighting. Does that sound good?
Yes.
Any more discussion? All those in favor say aye. Aye. Opposed? Abstain? Motion carries.
Thanks a lot, guys. It's been we've had a lot of work with you for this, so hopefully we'll all be.
We're going to miss you.
Just kidding. We're going to be back with something else, maybe. We'll see. Got a heart attack getting here today.
Thanks, Jay.
Thank you.
Okay. Now we are 10 minutes behind. With item number 3, the last item on our agenda, 1085 Coast Village Road. Going for project design approval. All right. This was last seen on July 9th. I just noticed something. I was not here at the last meeting.
You actually saw this
I've seen it many times before. Tony, I've seen this project many times before, but I wasn't at the very last meeting. So is that going to be okay? What? They came back. With the meeting before, the request that was made on the meeting before was to provide details for the roof material, consider adding a Korbel detail, study the landscaping, and basically providing details. So do I have to abstain from this item? Okay, I can abstain and still review the comment. Okay, so the last meeting, the motion was to provide additional remodel of the existing canopy to bring into conformance with the proposed remodel of the main building, and carry forward comments 2 and 4 from the previous meeting, which is provide comments about the roof material and study the landscaping at the fence along 101 for breaking up of the horizontal line of the fence. And 3, provide more information about the existing and proposed landscaping along the car wash view area.
Yeah.
Your name for the record.
Kevin Dumaine, I'm project architect with Design Arc.
Bob Olner, property owner.
All right.
Okay, try to be quick about this. A couple of things to go through. We have this little 11 by 17 package to kind of help serve with the presentation. So the first item had been one of Kirk's issues or questions was, what about the landscaping along the driveway entrance to the car wash? And so we put this exhibit together to demonstrate what was going in and how it worked in the section and how it was going to help obscure the view of the cars from Coast Village Circle. And we go to the next page. So then we have some questions about the canopy itself. So this is the view of the existing canopy. And then on one of my elevation pages, here we are, 403. What we've ended up doing to sort of, bring the canopy up just to be a little more consistent in style with the building was we've added a base, and then we've added a run plaster column capital to it. And that'll all be a painted plaster to match the building. And we think it kind of helps match the style without being too heavy-handed. And then the next item one more side issue. There had been a comment about the landscaping and the fence appearing horizontal. Well, that was a comment we think has been with the project since early in conceptual, when we had an elevation that had a block wall along the back side. So what we're talking about is a couple of fence locations. To the east of the car wash tube and to the west of the car wash tube. And so we have a couple of photos for you. You can see what it actually looks like from the freeway. And there's quite a substantial buffer of landscape on the freeway side in the Caltrans property, and there are because recently there was a series of options that Caltrans came out with, and none of those options included a widening of the freeway here. So we're presuming that landscaping will stay intact for a while. And then on our side of the property line, you can see in this photo, there's some existing trees that are going to remain. So let me jump to the landscape plan. We have a series of trees along the property line that are going to stay, as well as some new trees. So we have a series of existing and proposed trees, which will add quite a bit of verticality along that property line and help break up the issue of that horizontal. And even some lower scaled elements, some cordyline, which will go 8 to 10 feet tall. And then the fence itself will all be planted out with vines. All right. Now onto the roof. Since we're working with an existing, steel gas station structure, it's fairly lightweight. And the existing roof tiles are these guys. They get quite darkened over time with the adjacent freeway there. And this is a conventional weight concrete tile. So what we're looking to do is stick with a conventional weight or standard weight concrete tile. It's about 800 pounds a square. We can't go up to a barrel tile roof because that would be about 900 pounds a square. So that increase of weight would not be justifiable. We can't justify it with the structure. But we can get a standard weight in a fairly close terracotta color, which over time will also patina. And then what we want to do on the ridges is pair it up with some barrel tiles. And what we see kind of as precedent in the neighborhood for flat tiles was the Montecito Bank and Trust building, which is catty corner to the project.
You can take that one out, okay. Actually. Not this one, maybe this one.
That building was a little more modern, so they didn't put the barrel tiles on the ridges, but we would like to put barrel tiles because we think that would be a better look for our particular design. Let's see, something else? Oh, and then while there had been some previous comments which didn't carry forward to this week, but as we start to develop the details of the project, we'll develop them further in the final package. But this is the existing soffit condition on the building. It has an integral gutter. What we're proposing to do is cut that off and we'll maintain the existing soffit line, but we'll put a fiber cement soffit to get kind of a plank look, and also we'll have some shaped rafter tails. So this is the direction we're going with the articulation of the building.
Did you go over the landscaping along the car wash view area?
Yes. First page.
Oh, that was I thought that was Coast Village Red.
Coast Village Circle.
Oh, Coast Village Circle. Right. Okay, good.
Yeah.
Okay. Okay, thanks, Kevin. Is that it for your presentation?
Yeah, we have a pretty limited number of items to focus on.
Okay. Do we have any public comment for this item in the audience? No? Tony, any letters? Nothing? Questions? Chris, do you have any questions? Gary?
No questions. For the applicant, just to verify or clarify, the tile roof at the pump islands, that's to remain the same?
Yes.
That's not being altered. And what is that material right now?
The structure is all remaining, but we're going to replace the brown tiles with a terracotta.
And that's for this structure?
Correct.
Perfect. And then this building right here, what is its roof going to be? The same flat tiles?
Same. They're going to match with the barrel tiles on the ridges and the hips.
Perfect. That was my questions. Okay.
Questions?
Are you keeping the blue color on the canopy fascia?
We have to work that out with Chevron still.
Chevron has their set of colors, and I didn't really check with them yet, but it'll be similar to La Cumbra, and I'm trying to think of what their color scheme is there. That's what they'll want. So, but I think the blue does go away. I think that is changed, but I'm not exactly sure the color that does come in.
The store is switching over to what Chevron calls an extra mile, and so on the extra miles they have kind of an earth tone palette to the exteriors. So we'll be meeting with them on Thursday, and we'll kind of arm wrestle over that issue.
Okay. And I just had one question. Why is it that you want to use the barrel tiles at the ridges, at the ridge and the hips?
Oh, it's something we just talked over in the office and wanted to do. Felt it would give it a little bit more of a Spanish edge. I think Mark has seen it in some other examples. It's not Hunt. It's, we have seen it in some past examples, and we liked it, and we thought it would be appropriate.
Do you have any? You don't have any photos of?
No, I don't.
Okay.
One of them?
No, that was a more
They had the flat. Okay, I don't have any more questions. Chris, comments?
Just a few minor comments, and that would be for plant sizing. The 11 by 17 shows the dwarf yellow hawthorn. I think it's shown as 5 gallon. I think it should be raised up to 15 gallon. It'd be a more instant hedge. It's a pretty slow growing shrub, so that'll help that screening. And the cordyline soledad purple should be a minimum 5 gallon, preferably 15.
Is that it?
But that's it. Yeah.
Thanks, Chris. Gary?
Positive comments. I appreciate the column changes. I think it makes a big difference on how it looks, and I appreciate that. As far as the roof tile goes, I'm okay with the barrel or the flat. I've kind of seen both work. I never really quite understood the barrel tile on flat ones, but it is a look. And I hope you win your arm wrestling match on the color of the fascia.
I think we will.
It's up to us, actually.
Well, then I say bite.
I think it's up to us.
And I would like to make a comment that we put it in the minutes so we make sure we talk about it.
I know it was 3 years ago we went through this. Chevron went through it.
Anything else, Gary? No.
I agree with the comments that were made. In fact, I'm all right with the barrel vault. I prefer the barrel tiles on the hips instead of the funky flat ones. So I like that look. But it's a preference.
Stephanie?
I agree that the barrel tiles are in keeping with the Spanish layer of the architecture of the building. And I'm fine with that detail. And I'm fine with that barrel tile on the roof, as well as the canopy structure, and would prefer it to be earth tone to blue if given our druthers.
Is that it?
Yes.
I'm questioning the barrel tile in combination with the flat, actually, and I'm not opposed to it if I could see an example of it that could convince me that it would look good. I'm having a hard time visualizing it. I'm sure it's been done, but this would be project design approval anyway, so it would be something that that might be mentioned in the meeting, that at least one member is concerned about the combination and requests a sample or a photo. That would be my request. If I were making the motion, which I'm not, or voting on it, which I'm not. So it's kind of weird I'm making a comment. But I have seen this project a million times, so. And I think the blue fascia is inappropriate. So those are my comments.
I'd like to make a motion for project design approval, making the neighborhood project compatibility. First of all, thank the applicant for the improvements being made to the existing pump island. One board member is concerned about the barrel tile for the hips, and the board requests photographs of installed installations of that detail. The board is concerned about the blue fascia, and would like to see an earth color fascia instead. The comment about the landscaping, I'll pass to Chris, because I didn't quite follow it all. I mean, I understood, but I didn't write down the notes. Compatibility with the city charter, architectural character of the city, its appropriate size, bulk, mass, and scale, and there are no sensitive landmarks, and they are replacing the jacaranda tree that's being cut down for the new driveway. And public views are not an issue.
Can I have a seconder for the motion?
Second.
Seconded by Stephanie. Under discussion.
Just to clarify, the comments about the landscape was the cordy line should be increased from a 1 gallon to a minimum 5 gallon, preferably 15, or a combination of 5 and 15s. And then the Raphiolepis minor should be increased to 15 gallon size, at least along the eastern property boundary.
Thanks, Chris. I had one comment that you made about the fascia being earth tone, but if the structure itself is white, it should just be white. If it's here's the photograph of the structure. If this is all painted white, then earth tone would be kind of odd, running just along as a band to me. But
What's the color of plaster we're going to have for the columns?
I think it was going to be white.
Yeah, a bit off-white.
It should be
consistent with the building.
Consistent with the building is fine.
Yeah.
Because we don't actually have an applied gutter, because those things have an integral gutter, and that's
Right.
what we changed. So maybe that's
Right.
some color that's kind of compatible with the gutters on the building.
Just not blue.
Just
However,
not
that's
blue.
going to be clarified. Okay, any more discussion?
Favorite color.
All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? One abstention, me. Motion carries.
Thank you.
Thanks. And that concludes the ABR meeting for July 23rd. Thank you for listening.